Beneath South Yorkshire's busy streets and ancient hills lie stories that refuse to rest. Join us as we uncover 11 extremely haunted places where eerie legends and restless spirits linger. The Crown Hotel. On Askern's quiet high street stands the Crown Hotel, a solid Victorian building of warm brick and tall windows. By day, it is a familiar inn, where conversations and music fill the rooms. Yet when the guests retire and silence takes the corridors, the Crown begins to reveal a more secret life. Staff speak of furniture shifting in a locked first-floor storage room. The door is kept fastened, and the key accounted for, yet heavy chairs scrape across the wooden floor late at night, their sound sharp and deliberate. Sometimes a deep thud follows, as though something weighty has been dragged and set down with care. When the door is opened, everything stands neatly in place, and the air smells faintly of dust and candle smoke. Equally strange are the curtains in the old lounge, which have been seen to sweep open of their own accord. More than one witness has returned to find the great velvet drapes pulled wide, as if someone had stepped to the window for a better view of the street below. There is no breeze strong enough to move such heavy cloth. One evening, a night manager climbed the stairs to investigate after hearing the unmistakable scrape of furniture. As he reached the landing, he felt a sudden cold breath on his face, and the corridor lights flickered before plunging him into momentary darkness. When they steadied, the hall lay empty and silent. Some locals believe the disturbances date back to the building's early days as a busy coaching inn, when travelers and traders stopped here overnight. Perhaps a former proprietor still makes nightly rounds, or a weary guest still paces long after death. Others whisper of an older tragedy, a lost child, or a secret quarrel that left its mark on the house. By daylight, the Crown Hotel welcomes visitors with the warmth of Yorkshire hospitality. Yet after midnight, when footsteps echo where none should, and curtains slide back as though for an unseen audience, it feels as if time itself falters. Whether the cause is restless memory or something more spectral, the Crown keeps its midnight appointment with the unexplained. The museum. Tucked away in the lively heart of Sheffield's Orchard Square stands the museum, a welcoming pub where warm lights spill across cobbled courtyards. Yet behind the chatter and clink of glasses lies a reputation for mischief of a ghostly kind that has persisted for decades. Staff speak first of the cellars, a warren of stone rooms where barrels rest and pipes carry the smell of beer. Down here, gas lines have been disconnected without human touch, bottles shifted from shelves, and the chill of damp air deepens suddenly as if someone invisible passes by. More than one barman has reached for a keg, only to find it inexplicably moved, and then heard the soft echo of laughter retreating into shadow. The haunting is not confined below. In the snug bar upstairs, chairs have been pulled away just as guests begin to sit, leaving startled visitors lowering themselves onto empty space. More than one woman has found her chair sliding back under unseen hands, a prank followed by the quiet spill of beer from a glass that topples by itself. Even the modern coffee-making corner seems targeted. Machines switched off at night are found dripping water or humming as though recently disturbed. One evening, a landlord closing late heard a single firm footstep behind him and a low chuckle. He turned to see nothing but still air. Another time, a customer felt her scarf tug gently until it slipped from her shoulders, only to land neatly folded on the next table. Locals link these antics to the building's long history. Before it became a pub, the site held small workshops and lodging rooms where craftsmen and travelers crowded together. Perhaps a spirited former tenant still fond of tricks and ale, continues to claim the space as his own. By day, the museum remains cheerful, a favorite stop for shoppers and friends. But as evening deepens and the last guests leave the cellar doors, sigh closed, and the playful ghost resumes its rounds. A dropped chair, a vanishing drink, a whisper of laughter, each reminds staff and visitors alike that some Sheffield stories are poured from deeper casks than any living brewer can tap. Kingwell Woods Turret. On a wooded hilltop overlooking the quiet village of Worsbrough stands the Kingwell Woods Turret, a solitary stone tower half hidden by tangled branches and moss. Built centuries ago as part of an old estate or hunting ground, its original purpose is now uncertain. By daylight, it is a picturesque ruin wrapped in ivy. But when dusk gathers and mist creeps through the woods, the turret's reputation takes on a darker life. The legend belongs to a hooded blue lady who is said to drift along a vanished pathway connecting this tower to a second long-destroyed structure. Witnesses claim to see her walking in mid-air, her pale gown glowing faintly as she moves across empty space where the track once lay. Some describe the soft swish of skirts or the brush of cold air as she passes, followed by a silence so deep it seems to swallow the forest. Hikers and late-night wanderers have given chilling testimony. One evening, a pair of walkers watched a blue-shrouded figure emerge from the trees and glide toward the turret. They stepped closer, only to see her continue calmly out over the steep drop where no path remains, fading into the gathering mist. Others speak of hearing distant footsteps crunching leaves overhead, though no living soul is near. Local folklore offers many theories. Some believe the Blue Lady was once a noblewoman who waited here for a lover lost to war pacing until grief led her to despair. Others claim she was a servant, accused of betrayal and cast down from the tower, forever retracing her final walk. Whatever her origin, the effect is the same, a quiet, sorrowful presence that seems to bend the landscape to memory. Today, Kingwell Woods is popular with ramblers and birdwatchers, yet even on bright afternoons, the turret feels apart, its stones damp and cold. At twilight, when the last birds call and shadows stretch like black ribbons through the undergrowth, visitors say the air thickens and every sound grows strange. The Blue Lady's impossible path remains an enduring mystery, one that leaves even skeptics glancing upward, wondering what lingers where earth and sky no longer meet. Wentworth Woodhouse Stable Block. Set within the grand estate of Wentworth Woodhouse stands an imposing stable block, a fine Georgian structure of red brick and elegant arches. Built to house prized horses and carriages for one of England's largest country houses, it still carries the scent of hay and the echo of hooves. Yet after sunset, the stable block is known less for beauty than for a tragedy that lingers in the air. The story centers on a young stable boy who once cared for the Marquis's favorite horse. One winter night, the second Marquis of Rockingham discovered a stable door left ajar. In a fury, he is said to have struck the boy with a riding crop. Panicked and desperate to correct the mistake, the boy rushed to close the door and ran directly into the path of a horse and cart entering the archway. The heavy wheels struck him down, and he died where he fell. Centuries later, his presence is still reported. Late workers hear the swift patter of running feet across the courtyard, followed by the high, piercing scream of a child that ends abruptly. Visitors pause at the sound of small footsteps that circle the stalls and stop behind them, though no one is there. Some describe a sudden draft, smelling faintly of leather and sweat, like a horse freshly ridden. One groom locking the tack room late at night felt the tug of a child's hand on his coat, and heard a soft sob close to his ear. Turning sharply, he found only moonlight on the cobbles and the quiet creak of distant trees. Others have caught flickers of a boy's figure, dashing through the main arch, his outline blurred and blue in the lamplight, vanishing before the gate. By day, the stable block is part of the Grand Estate's historic tours, admired for its architecture and glimpses of aristocratic life. But when the estate falls silent and moonlight spills across the courtyard, the air seems charged with the memory of that fatal night. The echo of hurried footsteps and the faint heartbreaking cry of a child remind every visitor that some tragedies never ride away. The Blue Coat. Hidden in a quiet corner of Rotherham stands the Blue Coat, a modest brick building whose plain exterior gives little hint of the lives once shaped within. Centuries ago, it served as a charity school, its name drawn from the distinctive blue uniforms worn by its pupils. The laughter of children and the rhythm of lessons once filled these rooms. Now, long after the last class was dismissed, the echoes seem unwilling to fade. Visitors and caretakers alike tell of footsteps sounding in empty corridors. The tread is light, quick, and unmistakably childlike, running along passages that now stand silent. Sometimes a door latch lifts with a slow metallic click, though no one stands near. The air cools sharply in moments, carrying the faint scent of chalk dust and old floor polish. Most unsettling of all is the soft cry of a child that drifts through the building. It begins as a muffled sob, rises almost to a wail, and then fades as suddenly as it came. Staff locking up late speak of pausing mid-step, the sound so vivid they half expect to find a lost pupil standing in the shadows. When they search, the hallways are empty and still. Local legend suggests the presence may be that of a young student who fell gravely ill and died within the school walls. Others wonder if the echoes belong to generations of children whose brief lives and quiet hopes remain imprinted on the bricks and beams. Whatever the cause, even skeptical visitors remark on a strange heaviness in the air, as though unseen eyes follow their movements. By daylight, the Blue Coat is used for community events and seems cheerful enough. Yet when dusk gathers and the last voices fade, the atmosphere changes. Footsteps quicken in the dark doors, whisper open, and the lonely cry of a child lingers on the stair. It is as if the building itself remembers its first purpose, and the young lives it once sheltered, holding them close in silence that only the night can hear. Burghwallis Hall. Along a quiet lane, north of Doncaster, rises Burghwallis Hall, an elegant country house of mellow stone and high gables. Built in the 17th century and surrounded by gentle fields, it seems the image of rural peace. Yet within these walls, the past stirs in strange and unnerving ways. The most famous sign is a music box that plays by itself. Late at night, when the household sleeps and the corridors are empty, a delicate tune will drift through the hall, clear and sweet as if a child were turning the key. On some nights, the music is joined by a faint singing voice of a young boy, the notes fragile but steady, echoing down the grand staircase until they fade into silence. Several apparitions add to the mystery. Guests and staff have seen a small woman carrying a candle glide softly along the corridors, her light bobbing like a distant star. She moves with calm purpose, sometimes climbing the staircase toward the upper rooms before melting into shadow. Even more startling is the man in grey with a furious face who has been spotted dashing down the main stairs. One guest woke in terror to find this stern figure leaning over her bed, his expression filled with unspoken anger before vanishing without a sound. Cold drafts sweep through locked rooms. Doors that were closed stand wide at dawn. A caretaker recalls setting a table for breakfast, only to return moments later and find every chair pulled sharply away as if an unseen company had risen to leave. Legends suggest the small woman may be a former servant keeping a silent vigil, while the grey-faced man could be a long-dead master consumed by some bitter grievance. Whatever their origins, their restless energy remains unmistakable. Today, Burghwallis Hall is admired as a piece of Yorkshire heritage, yet at night, its genteel facade conceals an atmosphere thick with memory. The music box that sings on its own, the candlelit figure on the stairs, and the furious man who startles sleepers make this quiet country house a place where history feels alive and not always at peace. St. Mary Magdalene Church. At the heart of Wiston Village, St. Mary Magdalene Church stands serene amid old gravestones and whispering yews. Its square tower and ancient stones speak of centuries of prayer and devotion. Yet as dusk settles over the churchyard and the evening bells fade, the building is said to awaken with sounds that belong to another world. Caretakers and parishioners have long spoken of footsteps echoing inside the nave when the church is empty. The tread is slow and deliberate, moving from pew to pew, as though someone unseen is inspecting the silent rows. Sometimes the latch of the vestry door lifts and rattles on its own, the iron handle shifting with a faint metallic scrape, though no living hand is near. During late services, a sudden chill will settle, without warning, so sharp that breath mists in the air even on summer nights. One organist remembers finishing a hymn only to feel a cold current swirl about his feet and hear the soft sound of pages turning on the lectern, though no one stood there. Legends offer somber explanations. Some say the presence belongs to an old sexton who once kept watch here and cannot lay down his duties. Others tell of a medieval priest, wronged in life, still pacing the aisle in silent protest. A few whisper of an unnamed penitent who died before confession, doomed to linger at the threshold of forgiveness. A visitor strolling the churchyard one autumn evening felt the distinct pressure of a hand on her shoulder and a quiet sigh behind her ear. Turning quickly, she saw only the moonlight on mossy stones and the gentle sway of dark trees. By day, St. Mary Magdalene is a place of community and worship, its bells calling the faithful as they have for centuries. But when the congregation departs and night draws close, the church seems to keep vigil with the unseen. The measured footsteps, the restless vestry latch, and the sudden breath of cold air leave a question hanging in the stillness: who or what continues to walk these sacred aisles after midnight? Abbey House. Hidden among gentle fields near the ruins of Roche Abbey, Abbey House stands as a quiet Georgian dwelling with pale stone walls and tall sash windows. By daylight, it seems a peaceful neighbor to the old monastery. Yet when dusk gathers and the abbey's broken arches fade into shadow, Abbey House is said to host a drama far darker than its calm appearance suggests. The most famous presence is the Grey Lady. She has been glimpsed at twilight, gazing from an upstairs window, her face pale and still as if locked in sorrow. Sometimes she lingers long enough for passers-by to register the sweep of an old-fashioned gown before she dissolves into the fading light. Inside, strange sounds deepen the mystery. Guests have reported the wail of a child coming from an upper room, a thin and heart-piercing cry that stops abruptly as though a door has been slammed on the sound. Others speak of soft, measured footsteps ascending the main staircase, often followed by the sight of a maid in a simple dress carrying a candle, climbing steadily before vanishing near the attic landing. Local legend provides a haunting backstory. In the 18th century, a young maid is said to have fallen pregnant after an affair with a visiting guest. Terrified of disgrace and left without help, she gave birth in secret and in a moment of despair ended the child's life. Overcome by guilt, she is believed to have taken her own life in the attic, sealing her sorrow within the house. Caretakers closing the building at night sometimes feel a sharp drop in temperature on the stairs or notice the faint scent of candle wax and old linen. One visitor described a brief pressure on her sleeve as though someone had brushed past, carrying a lighted taper. By day, Abbey House remains a graceful country dwelling beside the historic Abbey ruins. But when darkness spreads across the fields and the first owls call the Grey Lady's silent watch and the unseen maid's last climb, remind every passerby that some tragedies cannot be buried. The house keeps its vigil, a quiet witness to grief that refuses to fade. Doncaster Mansion House. On the busy high street of Doncaster stands the Mansion House, a grand 18th century building of sweeping staircases and glittering chandeliers. Built in 1748 to host civic receptions and royal guests, it remains one of only 3 official mansion houses in England. By day, it is a proud symbol of the town's heritage. Yet after nightfall, the building is said to host a far more secret occupant. The most persistent legend tells of a tall man with the bearing of a soldier, believed to be a former mayor's attendant, who continues his watch long after death. Staff preparing for events late at night have reported the sound of measured footsteps echoing across the marble floors, followed by the creak of a door opening, though no one stands nearby. On quiet evenings, a shadow is sometimes glimpsed at the turn of the grand staircase, a dark, upright figure, pausing as if on duty, then melting into the air. One caretaker, locking the upper rooms after a reception, felt a sudden chill rush past his shoulder and heard the faint clink of glass from the empty dining room. Another described a fleeting vision of a man in formal coat and powdered wig standing beside the great hearth, only to fade like mist. Visitors have occasionally noticed furniture shifted overnight or found lights switched on in rooms closed hours earlier. Even skeptical volunteers admit to moments of unease, as if the mansion house retains a living memory of its most attentive servant. Yet local historians point out that no violent death is recorded here, suggesting a ghost not of anger, but of enduring duty. Today, guided tours present the mansion house as a masterpiece of Georgian elegance, and many who enter sense nothing but beauty. But when the final guests depart, and silence fills the high-ceilinged halls, the air grows heavy with expectation. The tall shadow may once again climb the staircase unseen, except for the faintest echo of boots on stone. A loyal guardian ensuring the House of Doncaster remains as splendid and as mysterious as in centuries past. Cannon Hall. Set amid sweeping parkland west of Barnsley stands Cannon Hall, a grand Georgian mansion, once home to the Spencer Stanhope family. Today, it welcomes visitors as a museum of art and history. Yet long after the doors are locked and the last guests leave, the house is said to play host to spirits of its former residents who refuse to fade away. Foremost among them is Elizabeth Spencer Stanhope, remembered as one of the last family members to live here. Her figure, graceful and silent, has been seen gliding across the entrance hall and along the great staircase, sometimes appearing on the sweeping driveway as if returning from an evening carriage ride. A former staff member described feeling a sudden tug at her cheek in the Victorian ballroom, as though someone affectionate but unseen had reached out. Other happenings deepen the mystery. Doors slam without warning, their bangs echoing through the corridors. A heavy chandelier turns slowly of its own accord, while faint strains of distant music drift through locked rooms. In the historic kitchen, a maid in 19th century dress has been sighted busily at work only to vanish when approached. Some visitors catch the unmistakable smell of pipe tobacco, though smoking is forbidden inside the building. One evening, a curator closing for the night found an unseen force pulling at a door handle as she tried to shut it. Another time, volunteers heard a faint conversation from an empty gallery, as if guests from centuries past were quietly debating art that no longer hangs there. Legends suggest that Elizabeth's spirit lingers out of love for the home she cherished, while the spectral maid continues her endless domestic rounds. Whatever the truth, the combination of sounds, scents, and fleeting figures convinces many that Cannon Hall remembers its lively past. By day, the hall delights visitors with fine paintings and manicured gardens. Yet when twilight spreads across the park and the great house settles into silence, the walls seem to breathe memory. The soft turn of a chandelier, a sudden echoing door slam, and the scent of long-vanished tobacco leave even the most skeptical guest wondering who might still wander these elegant rooms after dark. Bowling Hall Museum. On a quiet street in Bradford stands Bowling Hall, a house with medieval roots and Jacobean grandeur. Today, it is a museum, yet its long and often violent history has left an atmosphere far from tranquil. Centuries of family feuds, political intrigue, and civil war seem to echo in every paneled room. The most famous tale dates to 1643 during the English Civil War. The Royalist commander, the Earl of Newcastle, spent a night here while planning an assault on parliamentarian-held Bradford. He awoke to feel his bedclothes being tugged and saw the apparition of a woman in white, pleading for mercy, words remembered as "Pity, poor Bradford." Struck with dread, the Earl altered his plan, sparing the town from complete destruction. Many who wander the hall after hours speak of phantoms crossing centuries. A lady dressed in white floats across the old ghost room and fades into the great fireplace. Visitors on the main staircase report a sudden smell of pipe smoke or an invisible push strong enough to make them grasp the railing. From the balcony above the grand hall come soft footsteps and dark shapes figures that melt into a locked adjoining room. In the vast main hall itself, the sound of heavy dragging has been heard when no one was near. Caretakers closing late sometimes find doors barred from within or sense a chill sweeping through corridors like a cold tide. Historians note that Bowling Hall sheltered noble soldiers and servants through wars and plagues. Perhaps the house has simply gathered too many stories to lie quiet. Today, Bowling Hall welcomes visitors to its fine collections and peaceful gardens. But when night falls and silence returns, the air grows heavy with centuries of unfinished business. Those who pause on the great staircase or linger in the ghost room often leave with the uneasy conviction that some residents have never left at all. South Yorkshire's haunted halls and silent woods still whisper in the dark. Like, share, and subscribe to Creepy Experience, and tell us in the comments if you've ever felt their lingering chill.